Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill's feud has been continuing, and we'll see if it has improved. We'll also check out the latest crossovers, returns, and more, starting things off with Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. We've been talking about this feud a lot lately, but not really for any good reasons. The feud has extremely underdelivered so far and just feels so underwhelming, especially when you consider the fact that this is a WrestleMania program for the top prize in the women's division with two massive stars. This feud and story should have been huge. On paper, it doesn't get much bigger for a women's title match than Jade versus Rhea. When fans were first discussing this dream matchup several years ago, people were talking about it as a WrestleMania main event candidate. The women have not main evented WrestleMania since 2021, but you had a lot of fans a few years ago thinking that if anyone could bring the women back to the WrestleMania main event, it would be a matchup like Jade versus Rhea. That's where everyone's expectations has been at for years in regards to Jade versus Rhea. But here we are in current day, that big dream match has been booked for the WrestleMania stage, just how everyone envisioned it. But no one envisioned the feud to be this lifeless and flat. Although this match contains the Elimination Chamber winner, two of the biggest names in the division, and the women's title itself, it still feels so empty and soulless for whatever reason. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly is the issue in this feud to make it seem like that, but something is just really off. It started on fire with their brutal social media jabs at each other, but since then, there hasn't been a single thing worth talking about with this feud, and it is fully flatlined. They've had a few promo segments together, and none of those segments had a steady flow at all. Then you had the big twist of Jade Cargill converting her two biggest rivals to her two faction partners, but even a big twist like that did not add much new life into this feud. It was a little flame for the feud that flamed out almost instantly, and we saw the continuation of that story on March 27th. Jade Cargill and her new faction interrupted Rhea's promo, and as everyone knows, promos have not been the strong suit of this entire rivalry, so the promo from Jade's group didn't really add much to the story either. You had three women trying to talk over each other with the crowd booing as well, so it was rough. It eventually led to a BFAB versus Rhea Ripley match that wasn't really much of a match. It was more of an angle just to set up another 3-on-1 attack on Rhea Ripley. Jade has stood tall over Rhea Ripley for several weeks now, so common sense tells us that Rhea Ripley will get her moment of standing tall over the next few weeks as well. But in terms of a heated rivalry, great story, and great momentum, there's absolutely none of that here at all with Rhea versus Jade. And it's unfortunate because we want to like it, no one ever wants to be negative about something, but they're just giving us nothing at all to work with here. With this feud, the story and buildup has been really rough. And it's pretty bizarre because you look over at Raw and the women's world title actually had a decent feud and story going on over there. A very solid story and buildup so far has been happening with Liv Morgan and Stephanie. Both women over there have been comparing their journeys over the last decade, judging each other and taking jabs, and they're going to see who's the better woman at WrestleMania 42 for the world title. Solid story and rivalry going on there between Liv and Stephanie for WrestleMania 42. But you look over at Rhea and Jade's WrestleMania program, and there's none of that in place at all. At this point, it's hard to imagine Rhea and Jade's feud gaining any life here in the final few weeks. So fans are just looking forward to this feud being over with and seeing what's next for both women. Celebrity crossovers is a very touchy subject in the community. Some fans don't mind it if it's done right and written properly, while other fans absolutely despise it and don't want to see any type of celebrities in the ring at all. And the last few years have been a real roller coaster for celebrity crossovers in general. When you think of good crossover moments in recent memory, Bad Bunny is probably the first name that pops into your head. Bad Bunny is one of the biggest musicians in the world right now, but he took some time out of his very busy life and career to get serious about wrestling for WWE and put his heart into training to wrestle. Bad Bunny had a solid match at WrestleMania 37 and had another outstanding match against Damian Priest a few years later in 2023. That's what you would consider as a successful celebrity crossover. But also in recent memory, we've seen a couple of nightmare crossovers such as Travis Scott. The way Bad Bunny was used in comparison to Travis Scott was just night and day. Bad Bunny had his own storyline and rivalry going on in the middle of the card, and he wasn't interrupting anything else, so it was smooth. But Travis Scott comes to WWE and he instantly got placed into the big moment of John Cena's heel turn with The Rock and Cody Rhodes. No explanation for what he was doing there, he was simply just there. And then a few months later, when everyone is expecting The Rock to show up at WrestleMania 41, to continue the story that he started with John Cena. We instead saw Travis Scott march his way to the ring to affect the outcome of the Night 2 WrestleMania main event for the undisputed title. Just absolutely horrific booking there for that crossover that really turned fans off towards Travis Scott and crossovers in general. But then a few months after that, we saw Jelly Roll get his own storyline with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, and Logan Paul, and that was another successful one. Jelly Roll trained hard, he was committed. He also personally requested to lose because he knew he was the outsider that was stepping in, and everyone respected what he did there. But now we get to the March 27th edition of Smackdown, and it appears that the IWC has flipped on Jelly Roll because of the booking and how he was used on this edition of Smackdown. Out of the entire Smackdown roster, on the road to WrestleMania that's a few weeks away, Jelly Roll was one of the most featured stars of that entire episode of Smackdown. Jelly Roll had one full match in which he picked up a victory over Kit Wilson. He had 3 backstage segments, and he played a key role in the main event segment after Randy Orton dropped him with an RKO. So fans are completely baffled that with 3 weeks to go until WrestleMania, such a crucial time where you're trying to add all the finishing touches to rivalries, Jelly Roll somehow gets 5 segments and is the most featured star of the night, and fans are not happy with that. You got guys like Gunther being completely off television for 3 weeks, you got superstars who can't make it on screen at all, but somehow there's enough time on the show to give Jelly Roll 5 segments. So the fans are very upset and are having a hard time finding the logic in that. Some fans are even joking about how Jelly Roll is getting booked better than the Rhea versus Jade feud. And honestly, it's not even a joke. He is getting booked better than the women's title. When it comes to celebrity crossovers, there's a fine line you gotta walk when booking them. If you use them in the way they did like with IShowSpeed at the Royal Rumble when he got speared by Braun Breaker, that's absolutely perfect. Just these little cameo type of moments, but when you're giving a celebrity multiple huge segments within one episode of SmackDown, fans are going to have an issue with that. Celebrities are supposed to be a guest, not one of the highest featured stars of the night. So you see some fans starting to turn on Jelly Roll because of that booking there. And fans are really hoping and praying that this doesn't lead to another moment like last year, where Jelly Roll will come out at WrestleMania to interfere in the Cody versus Randy title match. No way they make that same mistake 2 years in a row, but then again, you just never know. And there's another collab on the way as well. Trick Williams recently invited Lil Yachty to the April 3rd edition of SmackDown, so it seems like there will be some celebrity involvement there with the United States title. There's also rumors that IShowSpeed will also play a role at WrestleMania 42. So there's quite a few celebrity crossovers set up right now for WrestleMania, and fans are just not feeling so well about it since the celebrities are getting booked better than most of the WrestleMania rivalries right now. But we'll have to see how that continues to play out. Carmella's last match was back in early 2023, and shortly after that she became pregnant and went away for a bit. And as fans were getting ready for her return, what was holding her back was a lingering foot-related injury from her pregnancy, and after a while she ended up getting released. Well, her husband, Corey Graves, was recently asked by TV Insider if Carmella would ever be seen in the ring again. Corey Graves said that you would have to ask her directly, how he doesn't want to speak directly for her, but that time will tell. So that comment there by Corey Graves definitely gave fans a little hope that we haven't seen the last of Carmella yet inside the ring. It's been well over 3 years since her last match, and fans would love to see her back inside the ring. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.